Stranger Things.
You had to point me out. My God.
Ninja, shut up. Can't be talking. You say you can't be talking. You have to pass out too.
On the eShop because Netflix apparently just decided they wanted to. The license expired and Netflix just didn't want to renew it, including the DLC from Dead by Daylight, which was also ripped out of the game. It's gone and delisted and removed all because of the opening intro song. Apparently they don't have the rights to that song. Just use a different song entirely. I was actually surprised to learn that Justice was removed. I remember this massive fighter mashup being a big deal when it was announced. Fitting that onto the portable Switch, that's huge. How was that even going to work? Well, it barely did. Apparently it didn't run very good. Or look very good, but it was on there. For the fans that actually liked the port, the fun only lasted a few years before Bandai Namco announced they were shutting down the online services and removing the game entirely from sale on February 7th of this year. The thing that did it in was literally the entire point of the game. There were so many different licenses used for the fighters, and it's suggested that most of these deals they made on a short-term basis. And many of these short-term deals couldn't be figured out and couldn't be renewed. So rather than try and hack out half the roster, they just had to shut down the entire game. It seems like really bad planning and thoughtful there. Okay, I know what you're thinking at this point, but like halfway into the video, where are the boots? You're wearing a shirt? Wait, that's what you're asking, right? You're asking to see possibly my boots. When I think about Nintendo removing games from the eShop, and I think about interesting things I see pop up on the eShop from time to time, my first thought is, many games.
Oh.
We all going to the store, guys, and I don't want to go. No, I'm not staying here.
It's gonna go.
Probably got removed because of costs. Turns out no. There's only ever been one game removed from the eShop for being just a little bit too long. For those that don't even know what I'm talking about, I literally went to the eShop to research for this video, and the latest game at that point that had been released, it straight up has the H word in the title. I can't even say the name of the game. It proudly boasts that you can play the game with one hand, but that's about enough. And that one's still there. Nintendo does not shy away from little content sneaking past its quality seal of approval. That said, the game in question for this video is called, or was called, Mirror. It was delisted August 31st, 2021 because it contained extreme nudity and content. Well, actually, the funny thing is the Steam version did. The devs did do their best for the Switch port to tone down the scantily clad characters, but sadly, I guess, the game was still delisted. They probably didn't help that the Switch's trailer for the game, I don't know what I can say in my video without getting demonetized, but it featured a definitely underage girl drinker. My hand in the bed. Everything else is fine. Drinking. There was an article I found that pointed out that technically that makes the Switch release its own version of the game. Now, because it's unplayable and only can be played by those that downloaded it before it was removed, and I would like to know that clientele, it makes it an extinct version of the game. So very rare. If you have that on your Switch, it's like a mobile phone in the early 2000s that had Flappy Bird. This next one is a crazy case of back and forth lawsuits. So I loved both It'll Do games early on when they released on Switch. I reviewed them both in my eShop series, and I had no idea that It'll Do 2 has been put through the absolute ringer, being delisted and relisted multiple times, and the craziest part is the absolute public display of venom that the game's publisher has unleashed. The game was first removed on September 19th, 2019, and the CEO of the development team and co-publisher tweeted, "I can definitely confirm that Nicalis is a piece of shit publisher." I'm gonna have that bleeped out to publicly tweet that about the company publishing your game. And Nicalis is not a small publisher either. Brutal. Apparently Nicalis had an agreement with the dev team that the dev team would take over full publishing rights of their games. Again, according to the developer, we're playing a little bit of cat and mouse here, Nicalis just forgot. They ghosted the dev team for weeks, and then out of nowhere, they just delisted the game. Which, if that's true, to me, that sounds like they just didn't want to hand over rights to publish. They're like, well, if we can't make money off of it, if we're not publishing it, then no one can. I don't know the situation, but that just seems really scummy. So the devs did manage to republish the game on March 19th, 2020, but they had to jump through some really weird legal hoops. What they did is they republished the game under a new listing that was separate from the previous one. So now this was kind of like, their listing of it. But that kind of sucks, because that meant for those that owned the game beforehand, maybe they downloaded it, played it, uninstalled it, they want to go and re-download it again, their listing doesn't exist. They'd have to buy the game again. And if that doesn't suck enough, the new version was again delisted just months later in December. Even the listing for the game on Nintendo.com was removed. But then, I know it's such a crazy back and forth, it was relisted again 1 year later. The weird thing is, though, the listing for the game never came back on Nintendo's website. So the only way to find the game is to manually search within the Switch's eShop. So the game's just getting buried at this point. So it's just a big back and forth of them saying, no, take it down. What a nightmare. Okay, so quickly I want to take a look at two free-to-play games that were removed from the eShop. I find these interesting because free-to-play games are obviously filled in microtransactions. So if you're playing one of these games and you're pumping money into it and then it just goes offline, that's gotta suck. So the two games I want to look at is Galaxy Variant S and Growtopia. Galaxy is actually from Ninjala developers Gung Ho. I love Ninjala.